Technology. Hi there, Rob Brown here with our, must be the fifth or sixth Zoom call now of our accounting influencer mastermind group. We've got a WhatsApp group and we are getting together a collection of the great and the good in the accounting world just to chat about what's going on from time to time. And we're going to do some introductions in just a moment and take a little screenshot of what's going to happen. Welcome, Matt McCrook. Matt Crook. Hey, Matt, I was just doing a little introduction. So welcome everyone to this Zoom call. We've got 6 of us on. And as usual, you know the philosophy is that we play with who shows up. We may get a couple more coming in. We are all middle-aged white males. And so good diversity. Yeah, some of you are a bit younger than middle-aged. But we're recording, gents. So let me tell you real quick the fun that happened yesterday. I had a seizure.
Hey.
I was doing a home workout and doing some skipping and some press-ups, and my wife came up to find me collapsed on the floor.
Okay.
And I was convulsing and shaking. My tongue's very sore because I've been biting it. And she called an ambulance. So I was admitted to hospital, and I was in there for 5-6 hours, did some tests, ECGs, everything. And I'm fine, but I did have a fit. So they've done brain scans and everything else, released me at 6 o'clock last night. And I'm still okay. But yeah, my tongue's really sore, my throat's scratchy, my muscles are all tense because when you have a fit, everything tenses up. But goodness me, it was a scare, and I am blessed to still be in the game. So well done, the NHS.
Yeah.
Welcome, Wendy. Hello.
And you're back at work, right? Okay.
Well, yeah, I've got a very slimmed down day, and you'll appreciate sometimes your days are empty and you have to fill it with things with what's going on at the moment. But listen, welcome one and all. Some of you I know, some of you I don't know so well. Wendy, I've not met before, but it's lovely to have you on the call. So what we do here is I'm recording and we will create something here, just a little discussion. I've got a couple of questions I'd love to ask you all, and then we will open it up for debate. We'll do 30, 40, 50 minutes and no more. But first off, just for the benefit of people in the group, can I just ask you to go around and introduce yourself so that everyone knows who everyone is? And then I can get on with the first question. And let me tell you the first question in advance. Will there be a new normal? So when all this is blown over, will it go back to how it was? Will it be a reboot, turn your computer on and off and everything will be returned to normal? Or will it be a new normal, something different? A lot of people saying nothing's really going to change. It's a bit of a fallacy, this new normal. We're going to go back to what we were doing before in a few months. And other people are saying it's never going to be the same as it was. So have a little think about that, because that's going to be the first topic that we will debate today, and everybody will get a say. But let's just start with some introductions. I appreciate some of you know each other, but it's okay to do it again briefly. Robert, will you just briefly introduce yourself, and we'll whiz around the room from there.
Good morning, everybody. Robert Plant from CATAX, specialist in R&D, tax credits, and patent box, that sort of thing. That's me.
Thank you, Pete.
Good morning, Rob. Good morning, everybody. My name's Pete Fairchild, private client tax partner at Smith and Williamson Accountants, and I head up the firm's sports, media and entertainment group.
Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin Whitehouse. I run an accountancy practice here in North Dorset. I've done for 30 years. And I also mentor sole practitioners and new accountants to the sole practicing industry.
Thank you. Stephen.
Yeah, I'm a general practitioner. Been going for some time, based in Burwood, Dorset. And a registered auditor as well.
Thank you. What's your last name, Stephen?
Sellers. Sorry,
Sellers. That's right. Yeah, I'm going to put it on the chat there. Mike Crook, welcome back. We had you on the first call. Good to have you here again. Just a quick intro, Mike.
Sure. Mike Crook, Managing Director of PracticeWeb, and we are a full-service digital marketing agency who work exclusively with accountants.
Thank you. And Wendy, lovely to have you with us. Quick introduction. Is she frozen?
She looks frozen.
I think she's frozen a bit, isn't she? Just at the critical moment when we were going to do an introduction. Okay, we'll come back to Wendy. We're talking about the new normal. I'm going to get you to kick off, Mike. You have your finger on the pulse. Are we going to have a new normal? What are you seeing?
are we going to have any normal? I suppose the fact that everybody talks about it not being normal probably means that people are starting to think about it not being normal, I guess. So that probably puts people's minds towards thinking about what they can do to change. I guess a lot of people that we've talked to, we actually ran a survey on number of small businesses on what they thought that if the impact of their business is going to change at the end of this. And I think over 50% said that they were expecting some degree of change. So what that looks like, it's everybody's guess, I guess. That, you know, they need to work through that. But I was reading something the other day that helped kind of put things into perspective, I guess. It was a bit like going through the stages of grief, where you've got kind of like a denial phase, you've got that anxiety, then there's that adjustment piece that goes through. And then you start to reevaluate what's going on. And I guess some people may start to get to that reevaluation stage. And it's going to be tricky to consider what the new normal looks like. But I guess if you've got a business model that's reliant on quite a lot of face-to-face interaction, that's going to be fairly disrupted, you know, for quite some time. So I suppose you do need to think a little bit differently, perhaps, about what that is and then what it is that you can do and still maybe offer the same service in a different way, or maybe have to pivot a little bit and offer something different because maybe your market isn't there, or the way you conducted business is going to be disrupted for a while. So that new normal, yeah, I think there's going to be quite a bit of disruption for some time, but people do take quite a while to change back from habits, don't they? So that's going to be a challenge. Interestingly, I don't want to hold the floor for too long, but one of the small business owners I was talking to, they recognised that last year they owned a number of Subway franchises, and last year they had roadworks just outside one of their venues, and that was heavily disrupted, and their business was really significantly affected. Like 80% of their revenue was down, and it took them 9 months to claw that back and get it back to where it was before. So this is on a massive scale. So if you take that as one example, I thought that was quite interesting. So business is going to take a while to recover, I think.
Okay, thank you. Pete Fairchild, new normal? Bit of a fallacy.
Great question. I think what Mike was talking about there in terms of, you know, humans being creatures of habit is absolutely spot on. That said, you know, the way of the world at the moment, one thing that has struck a number of us is that doing what we're doing now, when you're having meetings, normally, of course, you would sort of perhaps travel for half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, sometimes across London to get somewhere. Then you go into the meeting, you spend the first 5 or 10 minutes making teas and coffees and making polite conversation, and then you get into the discussion itself. Whereas this sort of format, you just dial up, speak to people, and get on with it. And you don't have the travel time as well, interrupting your day. So a number of people said, you know what, going forward, meetings, you know, virtually like this could become, you know, quite normal. So I wish I was a shareholder in Zoom, I can tell you that.
Well, people are getting an 8-hour workday done in a 3-4 hour slot from home, Pete, aren't they?
Well, yes, and I think we have to be quite disciplined about that, because I think one of the comments I made last week was that despite the fact I don't have a 3-hour round commute daily, you know, throughout Monday to Friday right now, with all what's been going on whilst things have been settling down, the working day is actually just extended, which is not sustainable. But I think we've become better disciplined at that, and people are saying, do you know what? You know, if you've got childcare commitments, if I've got to care for a member of my family, excuse me, then you know, across the hours of 11 till 3 o'clock per day, I'm just not going to be around. But I will therefore work that time up and work until 8, 9 o'clock in the evenings. So I think a number of people have said, you know what, I actually quite like this, having had a taster of it. This could become the norm going forward, and the traditional 9 to 5 office hours might be flexed quite considerably.
Yeah. Kevin, new normal?
It's going to be dependent on who you speak to. There's going to be some people are going to just soar from this. They're going to just benefit. They're going to find an opportunity, and it's going to change their life for the better. There's going to be some people that sadly won't make it. There'll be lots of liquidations and bankruptcies and stuff, and it won't happen in the next couple of weeks, couple of months. It'll be next year as the you know, they really struggle and struggle and struggle. And I think that recessionary side of things will evolve. How long that will go, I don't know. Some people talk about it just being short term, some people long term, but we'll just have to see how that goes. But there'll be a lot of people in the middle who are just like, they'll try and carry on the same because they won't change their thinking. They'll just keep doing what they've always done because that's what they've always done. And I'm lucky. I've been living this life of working from home all my career. 30 years I've been working from home, and certainly in the last 10 years I've really perfected it. And I was asked the question, would you take a 20% pay cut to get 80% of your time back? And it was like, yeah, sign me up. And it's not about, you know, what we do in terms of how we serve our clients, etc., and the work that we do. It's how we go about that. And as you say, it's easy to get at home. I'm at home now. This is my home office. It's easy to come in here at 6 a.m. and still be here at 11 o'clock at night and do that 7 days a week. But actually you don't have to. I still, all through this period, have only worked part-time, you know, probably 6 hours a day for 3 days a week doing my accountancy stuff, because I've got used to that. I've built those disciplines and processes in, and that's what people have got to learn, is they've got to learn how to live a different life.
Yeah.
And when you've done it for 10 years or 20 years, that's a big habit you've got to change. And if you can change those habits, trust me, it's way better. It's way better, all this working at home. I haven't traveled and commuted for years. It's great.
Yeah, the conversations I've been having are between a reset and a reboot. So, you know, when you reboot a computer and it goes back to how it was before when you turn it back on, but a reset is something different. And given that we've all had a taste now of remote working and electronic meetings like this and Zoom, and the technology enables us to do this, Vipul, welcome. We're talking about the new normal. Is it a fallacy? And we're going to come to Robert and then Stephen in a moment, and we'll come down to you. But yeah, this is, I think we might not go back to how we were. And accountants are going to be saying, well, do I need to put a suit and tie? And I've just been having Zoom calls with a client, and he was in his dressing gown, and I had my kids running around in the back. And everyone was fine with that because we still got the work done. And it's a new way of looking at things. So, Robert, what do you think about the new normal?
Yeah, it's not going to go back to normal, I don't think. People have got used to this, used to technology and how beneficial it is, really. There's two camps. There's going to be a lot of failure because you can't go back to the old ways where I'd like to, believe me, for the first 3 weeks, I was getting cabin fever, and, you know, seeing people face to face, still brilliant. But yeah, people are more focused. You get more work done. It's interesting, very, very interesting. Talking to lots of different companies. Some, unfortunately, where like a partitions company, I was talking to the MD there of the business, said, if you talk to me in January, Robert, I had orders all the way up till June, and they do partitions mainly for schools. And he said, we'll never go back to the normal because, you know, school take 60 days to pay. And how can I get back to normal? I've got spending £90,000 a month on wages, furlonging people, and the emotion in his voice and everything. I don't know. He thinks he might have enough money to, you know, if it weren't for 3 months, but it's still going to be a hell of a catch up.
Crazy time. Stephen, how are you feeling about the new normal?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, you look at it internally and how is it going to affect the day-to-day job that you do. Then you look at the external environment, and you read horror stories. I mean, this last week hasn't been great learning about what the OBR, the Office of Budget Responsibility, are reckoning this economy is going to plummet to in the second quarter, 35% down and 13% down on the whole of the year, which is twice what we were being told by JP Morgan 2 weeks ago. So that's going to have a macro effect on our environment. We can hopefully think that our clients will survive this. Some of them won't, just for the reasons that have been gone into. But when we go out and market to get new clients, it's going to be a different world out there, definitely, I think. And as you say, it's going to be a bomb site, I think, really, when it's all said and done. And I'm just hoping politically that our masters are cognizant of the fact that there will, as long as this continues, and they're dictated to by scientists, which seems to be at the moment, or mathematicians, we're going to end up in a very, very difficult situation indeed, which is regrettable because I don't want my children and my children's children having to pay for this enormous debt that we've run up in the space of a blink of an eye, almost. You know.
Yeah. Wendy, we've got you back. It's nice to have you with us. We'll go to Vipul in just a moment. We introduced ourselves briefly and we're asking about the new normal. Do you want to do a quick intro and then tell us what you think about that?
Okay, hi. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think I've got some internet connection, and then I had another call. Yeah, I'm back on now. I am the founder of Tunbridge Accountants. So we started. It's a very new setup. We started sort of sometime last year. It's a very small. My husband's helping me with it purely to help me to relaunch my career again. I took some time out for the boys. I've got 2 young boys, and I think trying to find a job that offered flexibility was just not really possible. In the end, I took the decision to actually work for myself, and he's helping me on a part-time basis. But so far it's been going on really well. I think because our setup is from home anyway, so the current norm it hasn't impacted us very badly. Again, we're so new, and we've done things quite. The idea was always to make it sort of like more of like a cloud firm. So at the moment now we're just implementing a couple more systems to make it more cloud and just easier to to just being able to run the business with minimum disruptions.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Vipul, a quick intro from you, and then tell us what you think. Will there be a new normal, or are we going to go back to the way we were?
Hi guys. In terms of who I am, for those that don't know, I'm Vipul. I run an outsourcing business with a big team in India, serving clients across the UK, Ireland, and Australia, New Zealand. In terms of new normal, if you're talking technology, I think there will be a definite shift to cloud. So I think that will not change. I think it will depend how long this continues for, as to whether people will change. And I think, like many people, if they're in a certain comfort zone, they will kind of, oh, well, things are back to normal. I'm earning my X, whatever X is that I need to live my life. And as a result, they probably won't change, but they were probably the dinosaurs anyway. So I think it will be very much led. The biggest change that will happen is those dinosaurs will do exactly what's happened to dinosaurs in the past. They will die off slowly but surely. And the ones that have stepped up over the past few weeks and months will definitely benefit. I mean, I spoke to one of my clients, and he said one of his competitors had actually furloughed all their staff and closed up shop. And that, to me, is just, I don't know. I don't have words that can express how angry I feel about a fellow professional just basically saying, I owe no responsibility to anybody other than myself. You know what? His or her clients, I don't know who they are.
It brings me on to my next point, Vipul. Before I do that, I'm just going to take a photograph. So if we can all smile and look like we're enjoying ourselves, I'm just going to do a screenshot of this Zoom room. Sometimes I've seen Zoom shots and everyone looks really miserable, and it's only because one person's talking and everyone else is really concentrating and trying to listen. So Vipul alluded to it there, but how do we feel the accounting profession is being led right now? What is leadership looking like? Are we leading? Are accountants leading this well? Is the media leading it well? Is the government leading it well? What's happening throughout all of this? Let's come back to you, Kevin, on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that we're sort of talking about within our mentoring process is that this is an opportunity for accountants to step up to be leaders. What's exciting for the accounting profession is that every accountant has the intellectual level to become really good leaders. They've got great skills with all the things they're doing. They might not understand how to lead. They might not understand how to help their clients run better businesses. It's not about producing cash flow forecasts and accounts and tax. Not one client wants another tax return or another forecast. They want somebody to hold their hand and show them the right path to go. And the accountants do have that ability to do that. And you know what? It's much more fun as well if you get working with your clients on a deeper basis, helping them grow their business, helping them with their business. And the accounts and tax, the software will do that. We will get to a point where the data will get fed in from somebody's card off the thing when they buy the thing. It'll end up in your accounts. Nobody will touch it. The systems will do that eventually. It's getting better and better. But we've got to learn. The profession has got to learn how to communicate and handle and work with clients. And doing it once a year in January, that's not a service. That's not what the profession needs to be doing.
Pete, is COVID-19 changing the way firms are led from what you can see?
Well, I think I would echo just about everything Kevin has said there. We are finding that people, if they were tempted to hide behind emails in the past, then they're actually going to. They're being found out. Frankly, people want a bit of TLC, as Kevin's just alluded to. They want someone to reach out and say, "I've got an understanding of the sorts of issues that you could well be facing." And even if it's just, we've tried to encourage our partner group and our director group just to call, not just their top tier clients, but frankly, all clients, just to sort of see how things are going. And, the fallout in terms of potential new business opportunities has been frankly fantastic. I was talking to a client just yesterday about life and the world issues, and she turns something in terms of the property market being, shall we say, flat at the moment, into a bit of a positive, because she was saying, well, do you know what, actually I've been thinking about selling off some of my investment properties, but I've always been concerned about capital gains tax. And actually, I've got a new boyfriend. Maybe I can give some properties to him. And actually, you can start engineering a conversation, having just captured that new bit of data about all the tax angles connected with that. And there's some new rules, which I won't bore everyone with, that have just come in this month on that. But we've now capturing data that perhaps ordinarily, and certainly with email traffic, we would just never got anywhere near. So that sort of form of leadership, just by showing a bit of TLC to your clients, we are finding is going down extremely well.
Yeah, and it's crazy then that accountants are shutting up shop and hunkering down.
Madness.
And yeah,
Madness.
Do you think they're shutting up because they don't have cloud and they can't? Is there any evidence of that?
I think in terms of that, yeah, it's very much the clients that are business as usual are the ones that are cloud-based, both as businesses themselves or putting their clients on cloud. And the ones that are struggling most are the ones that have either allowed their clients to continue behaving the way they always have not given them the direction to move to cloud for whatever reason. So I think, yes, absolutely, I think it is. And it is the ones that are struggling are those that are compliance only clients, because they don't as you alluded to yourselves, they don't have the skills to actually talk to clients. And I think from my perspective, they're never a good client fit for us as a business, because in 6 months or 12 months or 18 months time, they're no longer going to be a client of ours, because they're a reactionary business rather than a proactive client. And I think the proactive clients are the ones that we always have good, positive conversations with.
Yeah. Mike, what are you seeing about the way COVID-19 is teaching us about how firms are led? Morning, Philippa. Go ahead, Mike.
Sure. Well, I think two ways really in terms of leadership, and it's something that we are working internally to help our firms with. Is there's the leadership externally, but there's also the leadership internally as well. So you've got these clients that you obviously need to help them through this very difficult time, and most of them, once they've kind of understood what they want to do with their business and all the grants and all the funding that's available, they are naturally going to think about what's next. So strategizing a way forward and talking to them about what they can leverage, or diversifying their revenue, or finding different revenue streams, or whatever it may be, because they felt they left exposed. I think there's a great opportunity for firms to help them to do that. Secondly, then there's the internal piece, where those firms who have people that they need to show strong leadership and direction to, they're going to want to know how, as a business, firms are going to react and respond and maybe adapt and change. And lead from the front. So making sure that they've got strong vision, strong values, and understanding where they're heading is really important. And something that Philip and I spoke about the other day actually was when it all became working from home overnight almost. What I really had in our locker was the fact that we had a strong vision, strong values, and the teams that just happened to disperse overnight into their own homes knew exactly what they needed to do, because they had all the objectives of the business set. They had all the objectives of their own individuals. So I didn't need to worry about that. I knew that they could deliver. So that didn't really matter. And then the week after having worked from home from a week, we had a sort of a town hall meeting. And it was really nice to be able to play back our vision and our mission and say, this is what we were there for our clients. And we were. And that really held nicely. And then we went through our values, and I could say quite honestly that every single one of my team held those values. Put our clients first, embrace change, all those sorts of things. And that sometimes I think people pay lip service to, but actually it was huge, because then I thought, well, I've recruited the right people. I've got the right team, and they've helped me through this process, and everybody's in this together. And that's been really nice. So I think there's two sides. Yeah, absolutely show strong leadership to clients and firms who are, as you've talked about, the compliance-led firms may struggle in this, but it's the strategic thinking that clients are now looking for. And when we speak to owners of businesses, most of them say it's incredibly lonely, and they don't have a management team, and they don't know how to strategize, and they're thinking, well, who can I turn to? And I think accountants have got that in their arsenal to help them do that, because they've got the idea of the money, but they've also got the strategic brain of a business. So twofold.
Yeah,
agreed. Yeah.
Well, Robert, how are you feeling about how accounting firms are leading? What are we learning from that?
It's from the last meeting we had, it's self-evident that it's a good job tax went digital when it did, because if you haven't got a cloud structure, then you're out the game, basically. Because I've come across it where I spoke to my accountant about R&D, for example, and you try and get hold of the accountant, and they're furlonged, you can't get hold of them. And it's crazy.
Yeah. Stephen, thoughts from you?
I agree with Mike. He will articulate some the values and so on. Again, internal, external. I suppose it's great that we moved to the cloud a few years ago now, and we do outsourcing, so we're well able to work from home. The only thing we had to tweak slightly were getting our external phone systems sorted out, but that was quite easy with loading apps onto my mobile. So to call from the office, effectively was calling from my mobile.
Yeah.
But you asked a wider question, I believe. It wasn't just leadership of the firm. I agree with the things that have been said about communications, that it's led to greater communications, more conversations with clients, because in situations that they're not used to facing, we aren't. They want to know that grants are going to be coming through. Of course, whether the furloughing IT system works on Monday is going to be a big test of government credibility, because there will be, well, everybody's, I don't know what people around this session are thinking, but you do have a bit of jaundiced view that it's not going to work on Monday, and it will crash, and people will find difficulty in paying wages for April, which will give rise to cash flow problems. So it's a very important day, Monday, from a lot of clients' perspective. Our clients, other clients.
We'll see.
Your point about leadership nationally, I think we're a bit of a rudderless ship at the moment without Boris. The profession itself, well, I don't know whether there's been any leadership in the profession at all, really. I'm struggling to remember who the president is. Ezra or something. I don't know.
It's a good point how the accounting profession is being led as a profession right now. There's some leadership within firms, there's some leadership within influencers like us that serve those firms, but yeah, perhaps devoid of leadership at the very top. Wendy, do you have any thoughts on leadership in accounting right now?
I think there's fantastic opportunities to come up from this, really. And we I echo with some of you have mentioned, especially like because we're quite small, so we managed to do a couple of blog posts and just basically interpreting what the government help is and how as a bit of like a bit of guidance for non-clients as well, but for clients, what we've managed to do is actually pick up the phone, Zoom meeting or telephone calls, and actually calling them personally to say, even really, really small clients, and just say these are your options and we recommend this, or just saying to them like, we are here for you, so
Good.
Any problems, come back to us. Most of them have been really, really pleased, like, oh yeah, we've heard from them and stuff, which main reason why the switching and stuff was because they'll send email. It's all relationships, and they don't hear back from the accountants, or they often find themselves being too small and like, we're too small, so they don't really care about us. But with this, is such a good opportunity, and to be honest, I've actually picked up a couple of new clients this week. And we were told during meetings that we are currently speaking to other accountants as well, so you're not the only person, which is fair. Then you're up against a few other competition, but it's come out quite nicely. And it's such a great time now to me, I sense it as a opportunity to come out from it. And actually some clients, we say it's a perfect time to have that good reason to go fully cloud. I think 6 months ago, we'll be struggling a little bit, saying they might not see the benefit, but now everyone is like, yes, definitely, that's fine. It's so nice to be able to use that, I know it's not a good reason, COVID, but to be able to say like, this is how it should be going, and making sure everyone's happy and to go on board with. And because they've done all this, with minimum disruption, I think that's, they find it actually more efficient, being able to turn on a call, drop things over. Yeah.
I got it. Great. Thank you. I want to push this on. We've got Gary in the corner there who's staying quiet because he's got kids running around. That's the GC that you can see. We welcome Philippa real quick. She joined us on the last call. Philippa, we're talking about leadership in the profession. I'm going to come to you and get one comment on that. And then finally, I'm going to ask people the question, what is the accounting profession learning from other industries? Is there anything you've seen going on out there in the wide world that either as the accounting profession we could listen to, or we already are listening to? So have a little think about that if you've got anything to contribute. But we're asking the question, Philippa, what has CV19 taught us about the way accounting firms are or should be being led?
Okay, well, first of all, apologies for being late. I had a client meeting that ran over.
Okay.
But I just managed to tap into what Mike was saying. And totally agree about the vision and values piece. And I'm really heartened to hear how he used that really powerfully for his own organisation. And we've been talking about that, haven't we, Mike? Add to that, though, I was on another conversation where somebody said, actually, week 4 is potentially the most difficult week because certainly for accountants, they have been working super hard over the last few weeks and just have kept going on adrenaline. But suddenly there's a sense of kind of fatigue, executive fatigue. And that's not just, the owners or the managers, but everybody within the organization. And there's this need now to come back together and almost sort of try and re-energize. And I use quite a small accountant as an example, who I feel has been incredibly dynamic, incredibly upbeat, helpful, supportive. And I saw something on LinkedIn yesterday from him, and he said he was really, for the first time, felt quite down and, low energy. And I suspect that is as a result of what's happened. So the question for me is, You know, some of us are getting into the new normal, but others now are feeling quite drained by the whole experience. And how do we limber up for the next 3 or 4 weeks and months and whatever?
Mm. We are likely to be hitting some kind of recession. I would love to ask you, and I'm going to save it for the next call, how are we equipped for that recession? And what did we learn from the 07-08 economic crash that might stand us in good stead for this one? But hold that thought. So just want to finish everyone with your thoughts on anything that we're learning from other industries or the sectors or the professions about what we are doing or could be doing in the accounting world. So Pete, did I ask you about leadership? You gave us an answer on that one, didn't you?
I did, yes.
Okay, so do you want to kick us off on this one?
That's another great question.
We learned anything from the world of professional football, Pete?
Well, do you know what? I was actually going to base my answer around the sporting sector simply because on a call that I participated in yesterday or the day before, I'm losing track of days, let alone weeks, but they were talking about, will we ever see attendances at live sporting events, you know, getting back to where they've been in the past? Because you've got the adrenaline rush, you've got the passion of the crowd, you've got the atmosphere. And as someone that frequents Twickenham every time England play a home international rugby game, I mean, I'm shouting myself hoarse there with the masses and getting completely involved and sucked into it. And it's a wonderful experience. That said, coming back to my earlier point about all the hassle of travelling there and getting out of Twickenham and home again is an absolute pain. And more people, certainly, you know, dare I say the millennials, who are far more IT savvy than me, are saying, well, actually, I just want to see the highlights, and I can see that on my phone. I don't need to be there and go through, you know, an hour and a half of live sporting action. Not really interested in all of that time being spent. Just give me the 5-10 minute highlights. And a number of clients have said over the last month or so, well, you've been hitting us with copious amounts of data about the budget, all the usual year-end tax planning checklists, and all the stuff that's coming out from the government around this thing called COVID-19. Can you not water that? I mean, I understand why you're sending me all these masses of information, but it's just too much. Yes, instead of sending me a great big budget booklet these days, you send me a helpful email that's got links attached to it to try and direct me to get to the bits that might be relevant for me, but I've still got to go and find them. Why don't you just sort of cherry pick it and actually send me the bits that I actually want to eat? And then I can actually get stuck into that, and I like you even more.
Yeah.
So I think using that sporting connection, a number of clients have said to me, can you just water down and perhaps make it completely bespoke to me rather than just give me masses of detail? I mean, one of my most recent client wins, just to finish on the point, was from someone who's an entrepreneur that had gone to one of the big 4 accounting firms. And he was talking about his mission to the firm was, I want to consider some succession in my business. I've got 2 young sons who are champing at the bit to take over from me, and I want to make it look as though I'm doing something to relinquish some control, but actually I want to keep quite a bit back nonetheless. And all that happened was he got a 120-page report giving him all the options that he could possibly ever think of, but there was no advice. So he said to me, look, I've got this wonderful report, all singing, all dancing, that I've paid tens of thousands of pounds for. It still doesn't tell me what the hell I need to do. So your mission, Peter, should you choose to accept it, is to actually take this report, water it down, and just give me 2 or 3 sort of bite-sized chunks as to, if I were you, these are the ones that I think are relevant and, you know, can really take you to where you want to be. So I think, you know, sorry, it's a long answer to your question. I don't want to hog the floor, but I just think just really not giving the enormous amounts of detail that accountants perhaps think they've had to do in the past, and just sort of give bite-sized cherry-picked chunks that the clients can really, you know, make best use of.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm not going to ask everyone on this last round, but if you've got something to contribute on what accountants are learning from other industries, other professions, just give me a quick show of hand and I'll come to you. Anyone? Yeah, Mike.
Well, I think couldn't agree more with Peter's point, to be honest. Short, concise bits of information is really important. I guess just building on that and probably following on it is thinking about being lean, I suppose, which is something from a product background, and I have a product background, so thinking about lean methodology, not necessarily adopting it wholeheartedly in the way it's intended, but perhaps in the spirit it's intended, because actually, to build on Peter's point, if you're lean and you take some of those elements of lean methodology, you're kind of thinking about eliminating waste and getting to the point. And I think that's what this process has helped us. If we've had to all replan in a very short space of time or communicate in a very short space of time, it leaves little for huge amounts of thinking, bureaucracy and red tape. And I think, from a government point of view, it's been great to see them sort of have to break some of their normal protocols to get us things quickly. So I think from an accounting perspective, if we can, or people can look at it from a, what can I eliminate to get things done quicker and easier for my clients to understand, I think that's a massive benefit.
Yeah. I'm seeing something similar in the pace at which decisions are being made. Some firms are dragging their feet, but on the whole, things are happening very fast. People are pivoting more quickly. Granted, we have the technology to do so, but new products are coming to market very quickly. Businesses are pivoting in what they do. Accountants are pivoting in how they show up to clients. So there's a lot of good change taking place, some of which has come from outside the profession, some of which is generated inside. So as we draw to a close, any further thoughts on that? Anything that accountants learning from other professions, industries, sectors? Philippa, and then Robert, then Kevin.
Well, just very quickly then, I'm quite close to one really big global business, which is very much, it buys into the face-to-face, kind of rushing around the country, big events, pressing the flesh, all of that good stuff. And actually, I think COVID-19 has caused them to start to redefine what personal service is. And what, sort of that one-to-one interaction, because actually you can be very nimble, you can be cost saving, but I think people are beginning to realize within that organization that this sort of Zoom call can in fact deliver quite a lot of on-point tailored advice, and you don't necessarily have to be on the ground to get there. So again, it's about being nimble. I know we talk a lot about accountants and communication, but it doesn't have to be always face-to-face. Yes, you do need to come out of your office a little bit, but it's how do you use this technology now to bring that personal element? And those people who are going to win are those who use digital and make it their own.
That's good. Robert?
Yeah, interesting. There's a client who's got 30 restaurants with 1,000 staff. And talking about leadership, and practicality, we probably never thought about it. But when they go back to normal, that won't be normal because he's putting half the tables in the restaurants. No one will be able to go to the bar. They'll have to go to a seat to be, for social distance. They're still going to be doing that for a while. So it's going to really impact the business, but that's the only way of keeping going.
Paul, you've just put something in chat to me about the way doctors are relating to patients. What are we learning from that?
I think, it's something that we touched on earlier about the ability to communicate. And at this moment in time, when, we've got examples just now of how people take ownership or responsibility for all their staff, and they're in that place where they need that TLC. And when any of us have ever been to the doctors, either for ourselves or with our kids, what is it that we want? We want somebody to put that arm around us to give us that comfort that we will get through the next week or whatever it is that we're feeling ill or our kids are feeling ill. And it's a bit like that. For many of the entrepreneurs, the business has been their life for the last 6 months, could be 6 years or 26 years. It doesn't really matter. It's their baby, and actually giving them that support is always been important. And, as I've said to people who've heard me before, I'm an accountant because the guy who looked after my mum and dad, and my mum never spoke to anybody other than that man when she was building that business up. and she was in tears on the day he retired. And I think if any of us can bring that emotion to our clients, then we've done everything that we possibly can to support them.
Great, thank you. Kevin, last word from you, unless anyone else has anything to add. What are your thoughts on how the accounting profession is learning from other industries and sectors?
I think there's a massive opportunity to watch and learn from the software industry. And I think the accountants generally perhaps resist software up until now for what it is, but look beyond that and see how software companies operate, because there's plenty of evidence of them deploying and upgrading and delivering services faster and faster. I mean, they work at a hell of a rate, and they have teams around the world to be able to do that, and that needs managing and servicing. So I think there's a lot there. And there's possibility that the software industry, if one of the accounting software companies gets it right, they could actually step up and help lead the accounting industry. But that's for them to do, to choose if they want to.
Yeah, thank you. Any final thoughts, folks? Well, I really appreciate your time today. You got one thing you wanted to add, Robert?
Yeah, it was just a client, and he's white labeled some software to the solicitors, and it's like a video signing, a video documentation thing that's been accepted. And talking about technology, originally that would have cost about £500 to get a signature in the solicitors, but now it's down to £100. And he did a mail shot to 120 firms of accountants and solicitors, and they got 30 signed contracts.
Wow.
So look, using technology, people are using it.
Yeah. Well, that's great, everyone. I want to thank you for being with us today and sharing your insights. I'm going to stop the recording button right now, and